Hi, and welcome back to Focal Point AFR Talk. Brian Fisher is my name. I want to draw your attention to our Focal Point Facebook page. Another way that you can participate in this conversation. I've got the question up there on the Focal Point Facebook page. Go there, like the page, recommend it to your friends, and then give your comment in response to this question. How should the grassroots respond to what the GOP establishment did in Mississippi? How should the grassroots respond to what the GOP establishment did in Mississippi? Again, there's at least three options. One is to vote for Senator Cochran because you want to try to do what you can to restrain an out-of-control administration and Harry Reid. Secondly, you can just stay home, like many conservatives did in 2012. Or third, grassroots conservatives could go and they could write in the name of Chris McDaniel on their ballot. So the question is, what do you think the response ought to be? Go to the Focal Point Facebook page and you can comment there and weigh in on that question. Let's go right to the phones, take as many calls as we can on this topic. How do you think the grassroots ought to respond to what the Republican Party has done to the grassroots, labeling them as racist, as Klansmen, cutting their a Republican off at the knees, Chris McDaniel, and all that? What do you think ought to be done? Let's start with Artis in Michigan. Artis, welcome. What's on your mind? What do you think?
Well, I think if it were up to me, I was in Mississippi, I would write in the name of Chris McDaniel on that ballot. I think that the establishment Republicans have shown themselves to be nothing but dirty, rotten scoundrels.
So you're a vote for writing in Chris McDaniel.
I sure am, and I think they need to be taught a lesson. I think they need to realize there are consequences to their choices, and they may have won this battle, but I hope they lose the war.
Yeah. Well, and I think you're right about the consequences. The question comes up, will they learn anything? And I would say the answer is no. I think we're past the point where we can think that the GOP establishment will learn anything. They don't learn. They refuse to learn. They never learn. They're blind to the lessons, political lessons, and that's because they like being a part of that club back there in D.C., and it's all about keeping the money cycle flowing. Lobbyists giving money to their campaigns, them giving money back to their states and their industries, so the money goes back to the lobbyists, and it gets back to their campaign coffers. It's all about this vicious, incestuous cycle. Really doesn't have anything to do with what is best for the American people. They want to be a part of that. They want to be in that circle. And so they're impervious, I think. They're impervious to the consequences or to learning anything from their own actions. And so, to me, it's not even – if somebody were to write in Chris McDaniel, I don't think the motivation ought to be, I want to do this because I want to teach the Republican Party a lesson. No, because they're not going to learn. There's just no way they're going to learn. The reason you do it is, hey, I believe Chris McDaniel got gypped. I believe he was defrauded out of this election. I think this is outright electoral fraud. I'm embarrassed at what the leadership of my own party did to a fine and decent conservative man, and I want to vote for a candidate that reflects my values. That's why I voted for Chris McDaniel on June 3rd. That's why I voted for him on June 24th, and I'm going to vote for him in November again because he's the guy that reflects my values. So I think getting the GOP to wake up, that's not going to happen. So, and if you accept that, then the reality is, look, there really isn't any point. There's just no point in trying to make political decisions because you want to try to teach the GOP establishment a lesson. I mean, the only way that anything, not they would learn anything, but they would have to live with the consequences of their folly. Not because you're trying to teach them, but you just go your own way. You've had it with being condescended to. You've had it with being taken for granted. And so now you're just going to start making your own decisions based on what you think is best for this country, not whether it satisfies the goals of the Republican Party or not. All right, Artis, listen, I appreciate that. Let's grab a call from Kelly, Ozark, Arkansas. Kelly, welcome. What do you think?
Hello?
Yes, Kelly, go right ahead. What do you think?
Man, I'm telling you, I've never seen anything like this in the history of this country, and I applaud the Republican Party for taking back their state and for reaching out. What happened in Mississippi, the people spoke. And the sane people, the good people, the Democrats and the Republicans on Main Street chose and showed the country that we don't like the radical right. It ain't that we love the left, but we despise this radical right wing. And, you know, Republicans eat their own so many times, and the Democrats, but this was a Republican idea. I'm a lifelong Democrat. I've never voted for Republican, but I tell you what, I would vote for Thad Cochran if I was in Mississippi today, because this is a great day in America. The radical right got the snot beat out of them for being crazy.
All right,
and
Kelly.
That's what happened.
Okay, this is interesting to me. So you support the GOP establishment in using electoral fraud to defeat a conservative candidate. You approve of that strategy?
It's not fraud.
Well, wait a minute. Now, you understand, Kelly, that Mississippi state electoral law says that it is against the law to vote in a primary of one party if your intention when you go to vote is to vote for a candidate from the other party in November. That is against that is against the law, and that's what was done. Most of those 35,000 Democrats that voted in the Republican primary, they fully intend to vote for Childers in November. They went into those polling stations with the absolute intention to vote for the Democrat in November, but they voted. I'll give you a chance here. But they voted in the Republican primary, knowing full well that they're going to vote for the Democrat in November. That's electoral fraud. That's illegal. They broke the law, and you're okay with using that tactic to
breaking the law. The voters spoke their mind and their heart, and they represented the good people of that state.
Okay, well, listen, I appreciate your perspective, Kelly. Let's go to Dave in West Illinois. Dave, welcome. What's on your mind?
Okay, well, listen, I appreciate your perspective, Kelly.
Dave, let me have you turn your radio down so we don't get any interference.
Yeah, I'm here.
Dave, West Illinois, go right ahead. Tell me what's on your mind.
Yeah, I'd like to make a comparison to the 2012 election to this Cochran-McDaniel's thing. I called in clear back there prior to the election. It appeared to me at that time that the Democratic Party went after every one of the presidential candidates except Mitt Romney because they felt that that's the guy they could beat. And the same thing here by getting these Democrats to vote for Cochran because they feel that's the guy they can beat. So they wanted to eliminate our conservative guy and then put Cochran up there against their Democrat senator, and that's the guy they think can beat. So they encourage their Democratic voters to go vote like they did to eliminate McDaniel's and then put someone they can defeat, just like I think that was the idea they had in their mind for when they defeated Mitt Romney.
Yeah.
Now,
well, you know, and okay, great. I think that's a good observation, Dave. And that the Democratic Party was scared to death of Chris McDaniel. They were scared to death of Chris McDaniel. That's why they participated in this scheme to commit electoral fraud, because Chris McDaniel scares them to death. And Chris McDaniel also scares the ruling class Republicans to death. He scares them to death. That's why they participated in this scheme to commit electoral fraud to undercut the Republican conservative. You know, I've said this before. We really have three political parties right now in America. There are three, not two. We're not a two-party system. We are a three-party system. We have the Democratic Party, we have ruling class Republicans, and we have citizen class Republicans. All right, let's go to Bob in Louisiana. Bob, welcome. What's on your mind?
Hey, Brian. This subject personally, you know, I'm almost 68 years old. I'm the spokesman for the Tea Party of Louisiana. We have 13,000 plus members strong now. And so let me give you my opinion. You're right. We have a three-party system. We, the people who are part of this Constitution, people you're talking to, and I'm a great fan of your program and AFR and contributors to it. But, you know, it's time we Americans stand up. I started taking part in the political process back in 2007 when just four of us said that, you know, it's going amok. We've got to do something. Now I'm participating with many of the churches and Family Research Council and cultural impact teams to try and work through that. But here's what's wrong, Brian, and you've got it. if Americans don't wake up and stand up, then we will lose this country, and we will lose its founding basis of Christianity. And we've got to do four things real quick. Number one, we've got to take back education. We've got to restore the Bible in every school. We've got to have the Ten Commandments in every classroom. And we've got to restore prayer and a pledge allegiance to the flag in English every day. That's got to be a must, and every American should fight for that. We've got to close our borders. And we have got to, I know you got limited time, so I want to.
Well, I've got about just less than a minute left, and I want to probe this with you a little bit, Bob. You've got a candidate here, Chris McDaniel, who stands for all of those things that you described. That virtually, you virtually just described his platform as a candidate and the kind of things that he would work toward in office. Bob, if you were in Mississippi, what would you do? What would your response be to what the GOP establishment did to a candidate like Chris McDaniel? Would you write in? Would you stay home?
Absolutely write in. And in fact, I'm going to join forces, and we, the Tea Party of Louisiana, are going to join forces with our Tea Party friends in Mississippi. And we're going to encourage and hope this happens, because we had Haley Barbour come to the RLC in Louisiana and pledge that we've got to start getting together, get along, and look what they did in Mississippi. You know, we tolerated it the last elections in Arkansas. We tolerated it in others. It's time that they be sent that message, and we've got to get that message. We've got to do a write-in campaign.
All right, Bob, listen, I got to let you go because we are out of time. But there's another conservative supporting a write-in campaign for Chris McDaniel. Have to be grassroots, or maybe not possible for Chris McDaniel legally to start one of his own. People can do it for him. Focal Point AFR Talk.